All right, let me just explain what you should have in your packet, okay? You should have a pencil. You don't have to use this one, but this is an H pencil. I believe most of you got an H, 2H, HB. You should have a step lighter pencil than a basic 2B pencil, but if you lose this, if you want to use a 2B pencil, it's fine. The idea with watercolor is that you want to leave as light a mark as you're sketching as possible. We'll get into that when we get into the first project, but just letting you know, that's all this is the lighter sketching pencil for you. Okay. The pads, understand that these are supposed to be attached here on the side. Okay, there's one side here that's going to be you're going to be able to start peeling it, but don't peel it yet. These are gummed for a reason. Okay, you should have it kind of free on this side and then gummed on this side. The way that the watercolor pads work is that as we're doing this remotely, and then even in class to cut down on the amount of time you'd be up at the front counter with a bunch of people around you, that sort of thing. I just got these pads free instead. But the way these pads work is that because they are like gummed and attached on the side, they're going to keep the paper flat as it dries. Okay, that's important because when you put a lot of moisture and a lot of wet paint on this, what happens is that if it's not attached on the sides, then it's going to start like crinkling. You know when you get paper wet and it gets a little wavy and bumpy? It would do that, but because it's gummed, it's not going to do it. So if you already started peeling at these, stop. And the first project, if you already peeled one off, the first project is going to be okay. You're not going to put tons of water on it as you kind of get used to it. But leave this. I'll show you in a later video how to properly take the top layer off and get to the next layer, but just leave the paper attached. Don't peel them off. Everybody got that? Do not peel the papers off. Keep it like this. All right, we'll get to the paper when we talk about first project. Brushes and paints. As you do your projects, as you kind of set up a space and work, a little bit, maybe a day here or there, these you'll be using. The other thing you will need is some sort of tub with water, because you need water for watercolor. If it's just like a yogurt container or something like that, I just reuse all my tubs as we, go through food and all that sort of thing. So any kind of tub that you can put water in. I like ones that are a little bit more sturdy or taller, because if my brush is in it. Other thing that you might want is same thing. If you have, yogurt lids or any kind of, plastic container lid, especially if they're white, those work great for mixing colors, because we're going to again talk about, how to use these and how to mix them, that sort of thing. So, you can stockpile these, especially if you're going to throw them out anyways. This way you're giving them a repurpose before you throw them out, and you're using them once more. So a little bit better for the environment, so we're not just blowing through plastic materials. I always keep something in case I screw up or spill or knock something over. It could be an old t-shirt is fine. If you got a rag, if you got paper towels, any of that's fine. It's just kind of a just in case. And then there are actually a couple of techniques that when we get to them, where you actually kind of dab off some of the watercolor with a rag or paper towel. So we'll get to those techniques, but I'm just saying, like, if this is my workspace, this is kind of how I would set it up. I'd have this, I'd have my pencil for sketching, I'd have a tub and something to like mix with, and then these rags. Okay, all right. Your brushes that you got, you did get a section of brushes, so you have 5 different ones. We'll get more into it as we get painting. Okay, if you start practicing on your own, then just a couple things. First time you use these, they kind of come with like a little bit of a protective residue on it. So once you do that, you'll kind of see it bounces back. If you want to rinse them off real good, for cleaning your brushes, because these, I got you guys brushes that'll work well for the projects, but not brushes that are going to be super, super pricey. I'm gonna leave it up to you how much you are gonna take care of. Watercolor rinses out relatively easily. You can use some really mild like dishwashing soap, but heavily diluted, where it's like, it's like a teeny drop of it, with a lot of water. But for the most part, you're going to be able to kind of swirl it around. And then when you let your brushes dry, one important thing is to squeeze out any extra water. Okay, reshape it. So if it's kind of a flat brush, you want that, because the points of the brushes are kind of the most important thing. Okay, and then you don't want to like stick them someplace to dry where they're going to be like, right? So what I do is I just dump out the water in my tub, and then I just stick them so that they're standing straight up when they dry. Okay, so you have a couple more. These little plastic dealies that come on here. Once you take it off, I never put these back on. One thing, brushes can mold if they have a lot of humidity trapped in there, so you really don't want that. And also, as you're trying to put this back on, what happens is you end up splitting the hairs. So once these come off, it's just toss them. It's fine. Don't hold on to those. Okay. All right. Your paints. So one thing that's going to be a little important, and you got one more, is that I was going to show you, and that happened right as I did it. These are you can tell they're called semi-moist, so they got a little bit of moisture in them. They're not like exactly like a Crayola, kind of a thing. Okay. We're in the next video. I'm going to show you guys a little bit more about. Sorry, I knocked my desk. How to keep your colors pure and how to mix them without like just muddying them all up. Okay, so we're going to get into that in the next video. So I did want to just mention, that they are kind of soft to start with. That's normal. They're called semi-transparent. The other thing is, if you actually read, okay, don't worry, they're non-toxic. But if you actually read on here, if you're going to read that, it says pigments can stain, use care. So because the fact that they're wet, kind of, a very natural instinct is to do this and then like wipe it off on your clothes. This could stain. So one other thing that some people might want to do while they're working is make sure you're wearing clothes like, that you don't really care. Like we're remote learning and most of you guys are, wearing your pajamas. That's fine. Okay. Otherwise, if you happen to have an apron or a towel or something like that, that you would want to put over your clothes, an apron works great too, because then that way if you spill, you're, solid. But just be warned, you're using paints. Paints can stain your clothes. Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next video. We're actually going to talk about palette management, how the colors work, and then we'll be off and running. All right. All right.